really fun to do this, to have the opportunity to do this. And Maxwell Finn, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to take. You can just keep taking questions the whole time. Ezra, he texted me.
Max,
Was like,
you're a little bit. We can't hear you very well.
Should be coming through here. That would explain it why it chose the wrong mic. I have like 7.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
And we're in the process of moving. My wife and I just built a home. My wife's 6 months pregnant. So Ezra, I think I might have you one upped on just shit going on crazy of 2020. Yeah, just the best time in history to have your first kid and build a home is during a pandemic. That's without a doubt that's going to be a good story for the little guy. But yeah, so Ezra texted me, I mean, like 2 days ago, and said, "Hey, I'm doing a training, and you want to come share some stuff?" And I said, "Of course. Whenever you ask me anything, I say yes." So this is going to be super impromptu, just things that I thought were valuable that I could share. But I don't have a slide deck or anything like that, so we'll just share my screen and we'll talk. And we can make this conversational. So,
and this is why I wanted you on here, Max, is because you're a guy who's actually out there in the weeds doing this every day. And I think that level of nitty gritty, like I was intending to come with high level, this is my vision for the year, this is what happened for me, kind of the CEO business owner side of it, which I know you're a CEO and business owner too, but I know that you also live in that technical, tactical side. And so I wanted to bring you in to share that. So I think it's really good.
I do, which is also a challenge, is getting out of my own way. That's one of our big challenges as we're continuing to grow really fast and expand our performance marketing division, build out our own internal e-commerce properties, and all this stuff, is realizing that I can't do it all, despite the fact that I love all this stuff. So I've been spending a lot more time just reading all the things Ezra said that he doesn't do anymore. I've started picking up as habits. So like I started meditating daily. I read for like an hour and a half every day.
I gotta get back to him.
So, but all good things. So what I've been really interested in lately is behavioral science and the concept of human beings being illogical and irrational. And it's really, I've read everything I can get my hands on in that whole field. Daniel Kahneman, guys like that are just really into the weeds. Rory Sutherland of Ogilvy. And it's changed my perspective a lot on marketing, just because I think a lot of us as marketers, we have a predetermined vision, concept, and idea of what our customers' pain points are, what our prospects' pain points are. We might even do things like focus groups and surveys. But the challenge is that human beings inherently are really good at deceiving themselves. And it's almost a subconscious thing where we've evolved to have self-deception, where we might genuinely believe that this is why we're buying something. And there's post-rationalization things where we can justify an action after we did it, but we think that the reason we bought it is the reason we bought it. And just as an example, they've done studies and found that on average, human beings, we as people, all think that we're 20% better looking, which is really interesting. So they've done studies where they basically bring people to a room and they show them pictures of their face, and they modify their faces slightly to be less attractive, more attractive, by taking composites of like aesthetically pleasing facial structures. And then they time how long it takes people to identify themselves. And on average, across all these studies, the 20% better looking one has the fastest response time, which means that people believe that looks like them most closely. And so this whole thing has really just gotten me really fascinated on, well, how do we talk to people, and how do we communicate with people, and how do we get people to buy a product when they might not even be aware of why they're buying a product? And so what I want to talk about today is our testing infrastructure. So it might sound boring, and it might get technical and nerdy, and feel free to, stop me and interject me with questions whenever you have them. But what I found is, if you're running a lot of ads, if you're running Facebook and Google and Snapchat and TikTok, whatever it is, and you don't have a clear naming convention, a clear tagging system, a clear structure of how you actually look at data, how you model the data, how you analyze the data, and more importantly, what you do when you actually get that information, you might as well not be doing it. And I would say most people we consult with or look at their analytics, like they have stuff hooked up, right? They have Google Analytics installed, and they might have some other software installed, but they never actually look at the data, or they might look at the data, but they don't know what to actually make from that data. And so what I want to start doing is saying, how can we name our ads, name our ad sets, name our campaigns? How can we tag all of these elements in individual ad accounts and across all the ad accounts that we manage to get micro level data and macro level data? And by micro level data, I mean, how do we know what is causing this ad to work, right? So I imagine most people here, when they look at their ad accounts or they go to their media buyer and say, hey, what's working? They'll look at the ad account and they'll look at individual ads and say, hey, this individual ad is performing really well. But they're looking at it in the context under a single audience or a few audiences under a single campaign in a single time. And you also can't say, is it because of the video? Is it because of the copy? Is it because of the headline? Is it because of the destination? Which element is actually driving the results? Because it could be that you have a great video in there, but your copy and headline is actually pretty terrible. So you could be doing a lot better with that ad, but you think because the ad's doing well on a whole that you have a great ad there, and you stop iterating, stop improving. So part of what we do is about how can we isolate those micro level elements within an ad, within an audience, within a campaign, within an ad account. And the other part is how can we get macro level trend data across all the ad accounts that we manage? So what I mean by that is, how do we know what length of ad copy, what length of video, whether using emojis or not using emojis is better or worse? And so by tagging and using the same naming conventions in every ad, every audience, every campaign across every ad account, we can do this in data studios with software that we use. And so I'm going to share all that. If I have time, there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about. When Ezra texted me, it's like, there's so much stuff, because I haven't done a presentation probably in over a year. And there's just so much stuff that we're doing that I think is really interesting.
The last one you did was for us at this same thing last year in May.
Yeah. And I think it was quizzes and stuff, which we're still doing a lot of, but like in that time, I've went really deep down this rabbit hole of data and understanding buying behavior. So part of it is the testing, and we'll dive into that in just a second, or the tagging. The other part is, what do you actually do with that data, which is an iterative approach on your ad testing and on your audience testing. So you're not waiting until things stop working to start testing, which is what most of us are guilty of, which is, hey, I found an ad, it works really well, I'm going to press. And during that few weeks, few months, depending on your budget, that it's really killing, I'm not looking for anything else. And eventually that dies and then we're back at zero. Instead of using that process where you're profiting to reinvest profits into continued testing, find more winning creative, more winning audiences. And so when that thing eventually does die, you have 5 things to fall back on, and then you have 10 things to fall back on. So that's part of it. Then the other part of it is how we're actually breaking apart our ads on like a modular level, so we can swap in pieces, almost like a kind of like Legos. So, hey, if a video stops working, we don't have to reshoot the entire video. We can take out different elements of that video, whether it's the initial scroll stopper, whether it's a call to action, whether it's the validation of the solution, and put in new elements and rejuvenate that ad that we already know is working instead of reinventing the wheel. So those are kind of 3 high-level things. I don't know if I'll have the time to cover all of it because I've never actually spoken about this stuff. You guys are the first people I'm talking to this, so we're going to flesh out a lot of the stuff as we go. And again, feel free to stop me as I go through. Ezra, I don't know what's best, if it's best for them to just put in the chat or just like to like unmute and just ask me. Like, I don't
think
care.
put it in the chat, and then
Okay.
I'll put it in the chat, and then I'll kind of moderate. Essentially, if I want to stop you, I'll stop you. If not, I'll just wait till the end.
Cool. But yeah, feel free to stop me. It's not going to throw me off too much. So let's hit share screen. Let's go over to desktop 2. So can everyone see my screen right now?
Yes.
Okay. So we're big fans of data studios. We basically, and just to give context to our business model on this side of the business. So, Unicorn, we used to be a fairly large premium agency. We've moved almost entirely away from consulting and agency work, and we basically do all performance. So we do performance deals with brands like Onnit, Perfect Keto, Hannah Cure, which is a big skincare brand, where we front the capital. We have much more upside and are aligned with that brand. Then we build content sites around that. So we have a property called Self Care Junkie, which we're running all this under. So we're also actually building our, and I'll pull that, our own assets on the back of performance marketing. And then we also have our own internal brand. So we have a big political brand and a few other internal brands. So just to give you context of this. So each one of our offers, every ad account we run has, and each channel has its own data studios report. And we're always adding to this because I'm always thinking of new stuff I want to track. But this is kind of the foundation. We have our kind of core KPIs view, which can be changed by time. This gives us a high level idea of, how much have we made as a business from this deal? How much have we spent? What's our total revenue, commission wise, purchases, ROI, CTR, all that good stuff, graph visualization. And then we get really granular. So then we break down our creatives, we break down our audiences, we break down our, and I don't know why it's not loading, break down our geos, we break down our age and gender in pivot tables. I'm going to dive into each one of these things. And then I like to explore, and I can do all these things. Like I just started messing with the other day because I got so many questions from people. Like a common question I get from on our info product business is, how many ads should I run? How many ad sets should I run? What should my starting budget be? And the answer is that it's all relative. It depends on three factors. It depends on what your total budget is. And then that depends on how many ad sets you're running. That depends on how many ads you're running. That depends on the size of the audience. So I was like, well, why can't I just start actually collecting this data? So I literally set this up this morning. I started tagging ads and ad sets, and I'm going to show you how to set up these tags. I'm showing what the visualization is to start. So like I can come in here and now I can actually have data to support, okay, a campaign that starts at a $500 budget with 6 ad sets and 5 ads under it. This is what the metric looks like. A $250 starting budget with 6 ad sets and 5 ads. This is what the CPA looks like. And so I'm able to get super granular and track everything in my ad accounts built around the fact that I'm setting up a tagging infrastructure, which is nothing more than just being consistent with the names that I give everything I want to track. So let's start with creatives and actually talk about what this like tagging thing means and what it looks like. Super easy to set up. So I know this looks overwhelming, but it's really not complex at all.
Will you do maybe after this a quick little video on how to set this up for anybody who wants to?
Oh yeah. So the reason I don't dive into the actual setup of this, and I'm more than happy, I've hopped on plenty of calls with people to actually like dive in with their data person, is because it depends on what platform you're using to basically pipe the data in from Facebook, Google, everything. So a lot of people use Supermetrics. We use Funnel.io. We used to use Supermetrics. The way you set this up with Supermetric is different than Funnel.io, but they're all built around the same concept. So like the way I set up all the tagging I'm going to show you works with Supermetrics. It works with Funnel.io. It works with everything. So that's why I just wanted to show like how to set it up, the foundation, because then it works with anything. And I can talk at a high level of how to set it up in Supermetrics and how to set it up in Funnel. We moved to Funnel.io just because it's there's more custom integrations. It integrates directly with all the affiliate networks. So we can pull more accurate data than directly from the sales channels. We like their pricing model a little better, but Supermetrics is great as well. Okay. So everything starts for us in our sheets for all of our offers. So every offer that we run, and we call them offers for you guys, it can be your ad account for your e-com store, or your clients in your agency. So every client, every ad account, every offer has its own dedicated sheet. We're constantly evolving and adding to this as well. But basically this just gives me as a high level view of all of our buyers running everything. Have they went through our checklist to make sure that we have the pixel set up, has it been tested, audience shared, all that good stuff. It gives us our creative folder link, creative approval sheet from the brand, data studios report, what traffic channels are running. The buyers can use this for their weekly review and plan. What did you do last week? What worked last week? What didn't work last week? I run this. This is the only ad account I still really run. So that's why I'm lazy and I don't actually do it. I make the team do it. So that's why this one is empty. But down here we have our ad tracker. And this is essentially just a legend, similar like a map. You need to have a legend for the map. And so every piece of creative that we test, we put into here and we give it an alphanumeric tag. And these are just the tags that we use. All that's important is that you are consistent. That's the only thing that's important. So for us, for creative, we use CR and then the number. And this goes all the way down. We started getting smart here and actually putting the direct link to the file to make it a little easier. So that's what we use for creative. We have tags for thumbnails. We have tags for ad copy. We have tags for headlines, the funnel destination. So what pre-sale are we going to? Are we going to the straight sale? These are kind of more macro level ones. The length of the copy. Does it have, what the CTA is on the ad? Is it using emojis, not using emojis? You don't have to get this crazy. But these are kind of the four big buckets for me are headline, destination, so funnel, copy, and creative. And so anytime we launch a new ad, if it's a new copy, if it's a new headline, it's going to a new funnel, if we're using new creative, we come in here, we add it, we add the tag, we add the copy, and then we add that to the actual ad name. So when we're setting up our ads, in the title, this is where we use the tags. So everything has kind of a generic name. We don't go too crazy. So, hey, this is a home workout angle. So Alpha Brain home workout video ad. This is really the important stuff. So we have a bracket. And then, hey, this is using the 108th creative. It's using the 26th copy. It's using the 26th headline. And it's going to our second funnel that we're running. Because we're using all of these tags, whether you're using Supermetrics or Funnel.io or any of the software out there, you can then pull that in essentially because it's in the name. So if you're using Supermetrics, it's, you can basically do a filter by ad name. In Funnel.io, it's the same thing. So you're basically just analyzing, hey, the ad name, if the ad name contains this tag, it's going to show it here. And again, I'm more than happy to, as like you said, if people want to connect with me after and like dive deeper, more than happy to do like help with the technical stuff or connect them to the right person. I just don't want to this can become very, very, very long. So I'm gonna try to hit on as much stuff as possible and more talk about like the reasoning behind doing this. So the reason why we like doing this, instead of just saying, well, hey Max, why don't you just like look here and say, hey, this ad has that creative and it's doing really good today. It's got a $5 CPA and a $55 payout. Because this is one use of the creative under one audience, under one campaign. This creative can be combined with lots of different copy across lots of different campaigns and audiences. And for me to be confident this video works as an individual video, I need to have a macro level view. And that's what this allows me to do is see, okay, across every ad using this video, how is it performing? What do the numbers look like? I can go back, let's go year to date. So I can see how, okay, CR66, this video, clearly an amazing video. So this video has brought in $67,000 in profit off of $47,000 in spend. It has, this is a CPM, the CTR, the CPC. Here's what our average CPA is. Here's what the conversion rate is for that ad. Here's what the ROI is for that ad. And so this allows me to come in and look at any of our ad accounts at any time over any time period and help our media buyers diagnose problems, help us find where there's opportunities, because I can quickly get a glance at, okay, these are the top videos that are running this ad account. And I can do the same thing with copy. So this is the, top copy in the ad account. So CO27, what is that? I can come down here into our sheet and I can see, hey, this is a longer form piece that I wrote about distractions because we're selling Alpha Brain, which is a nootropic for productivity. So this is a kind of a longer piece built around distractions and it not being the person's fault that they're distracted, how it's hard to get into flow states and get in the zone. So this gives me a lot of information really quickly about what's working. And then I can dive into, why we think that's working. Same thing with headlines. And so again, what this allows me to do is take a modular approach and start combining the best elements. Because if you're just throwing things in without analyzing the components, you could be missing the mark. And actually, maybe your top video is running with a crappy piece of copy. and a bad headline. And so if you're able to recognize that, hey, this creative actually has been run with this copy or this headline, what if I combine these three elements? Now I have three elements that all individually perform really, really well. The chances, unless they're on totally different demographics going after different segments, it's probably going to perform better than, you know, a great piece of creative with a bad piece of copy. So super powerful, the ability to isolate those elements within an ad and see what's working. So that's the creative component of our tracking. And then we do the same thing with audiences. So again, let me know if there, you know, Ezra, if you want to stop me for any questions, just feel free to, before I get too deep in anything.
Yeah, one question came in, which is,
Yeah.
do you use different tag types in ad sets versus ads?
Yeah, it's a great question. So for ad sets, this is kind of like the audiences tab here. What's important, I think, across the board with this whole system is that you're using the same, you come up with basically a system. So if I want to, for down here, I have a section that allows me to see the kind of big blocks of audiences. So interest, zero targeting, lookalikes. How do these three buckets and then retargeting perform? I need to make sure that every ad that I use uses the interest tag. So basically the way I pull this is it's a filter that looks for any ad set with the name interest in it. So as long as I'm 100% sure across my ad account and my buyer's ad accounts that every audience, every ad set that uses an interest includes the keyword interest in it, then I'm good. So that's more what's important about this, is that you come up with that naming system for your business, for your ad accounts before you get started, and make sure that everyone is pulling from the exact same playbook essentially. Because if somebody starts using, you know, they abbreviate interest and do INT, or they misspell it, or they use their own thing, it throws off the system. Now you can obviously include or statements when you're setting the rules. So it either says interest, or you can misspell it, or it's INT. You can do that, but it's easier to just set things from day one. So, hey, any ad set that uses lookalikes, we're going to include the abbreviation LAL. Any ad set that uses zero targeting, it's going to use the keyword broad in it. And that way, when you come to this stage, everything's already there. It's named correctly, and all the data gets pulled in accurately. So yeah, for audiences, very similar here. We do let's go back over here. So we have the same naming convention for every ad set across every ad account we run. Essentially, we have the name of the audience. So if it's this is just the boxing interest. So the name of it, then we have what type of audience it is. Then we have what's the age range. Then we have what's the gender. Then we have what's the location. So this is worldwide. Then we have placement. Then we have bid, conversion window. And then this is the newer one I put in just for that thing that I want to figure out personally, which is, you know, the optimal number of ads, ad sets, and budget. I included this 6 ads there, which basically just says, hey, under this audience, there's 6 ads. So this is kind of what our naming convention looks like for audiences. And because every single ad set that targets the boxing interest looks the exact same way, I can pull in across, you know, the entire ad account. What does the boxing interest look like in terms of just overall performance? So I can let's go back to year to date. And so wherever it is in here, it's somewhere in here. But I can look through and I can get a quick view of, okay, what are our top audiences look like? We have top custom audiences. So we have a 4% through play lookalike. That's one of our top. Call of Duty, because we launched the gaming angle. That's doing really well. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But obviously we want to look for, higher spend. So 10% initiate checkout. One of our top audiences, $6,200 in spend. So a good amount of spend at a $30 CPA. So again, this just gives us the ability to look at the ad account as a whole across a period of time and understand, is this audience really a great audience, or is it just a good audience under one campaign with a set of ads under it? Because those are totally different pieces of information. And so for us, like when we're scaling to 10, 20,000 plus a day in spend, we need to be really confident that the audiences that we're using for scaling, or the ads we're using for scaling, have actually been tested in a diverse set of conditions. And it wasn't just a fluke that, hey, this audience just did really, really well one time under one campaign for a few days, and now we've pumped $5,000 behind it today and it tanked, because it really wasn't a great audience. It might have just been like a 1 or 2 day fluke, which does happen from time to time on Facebook. So that's what we're doing with audiences. Same thing with the type of campaigns. And then we're also doing it with geos. This we can actually pull in direct from Facebook. This is just a different report that we're using because we also like isolate different countries. Right now, honestly, what's working, best for us across a lot of ad accounts, especially with a lot of spend, is like wide open, broad, zero targeting, just targeting different top countries. So that's the like super high level. And again, I know it's a lot of stuff. What I really want to get out of that is, I know it sounds boring, and I know it doesn't sound like it's important. It's a trivial thing. How do I name stuff, right? But it is critical. Like it's been a huge X factor for us as a business. Our ability to know exactly what's working and why it's working. And then most importantly, how do we replicate that and build on it, which is kind of the second part of what I want to talk about. I have no idea too where we're at in time, Ezra. So you let me know where we're at there.
You've got another 10 minutes.
Okay. So here's what I'll do. Since I have just 10 minutes, I want to hit on like the kind of the next phase of it, which is what do we actually do with all this data? So the typical process that most media buyers follow, that at least that I see, because we have an info product business, so I talk to a lot of media buyers. We have a lot of people in our groups, is they just launch a lot of CBOs. It's I throw up a CBO, I throw up 6 ad sets under it that I think are good audiences, and 6 ads under those audiences. And some stuff works, and then I dupe it and try to scale it, or I horizontally scale, or whatever it might be. What we do is we create more of the decision tree to continue to iterate and optimize on what's working. And so when we launch a new ad account, we always start with a main CBO, nothing super special. It might be 6 to 8 audiences, 6 to 8 ads under that. So pretty standard. But then from there, we have a kind of a branching logic tree. So if we have an audience that performs really, really well in that initial CBO, we then use that audience as a foundational stone to do creative testing, because now we have a baseline of this variable in the equation works, the audience, and we know it works. So now we can test creative, and now we have a kind of a baseline to know, are we beating it? And is it because of the, it's not because of the audience being different. So we'll launch a new campaign with a duplicate version of that winning audience. And so if we want to test 6 new videos, let's say, we'll create 6 identical duplicates of that winning audience. Each audience will test a new video under it. And that allows us to test a lot of creative while minimizing the variability in the underlying conditions, and trying to make sure we're like, the test is really about the video, none of the other variables are really changing outside of that. If, going back to the original equation, if we have a winning ad that's working really well, then we do audience testing. And so then we'll do the same type of thing where we'll launch a new campaign, but instead of 6 dupes of the same audience, we'll have 6 ad sets. And again, that's just 6 is just the average number. It's going to depend on your budget, where we're testing 6 new audiences. And each of those audiences is using the winning ad because we know the ad works. So now we can use that as that foundational kind of stone and test a lot of audiences. And so basically we have that initial campaign, and then based on what works and what doesn't work, it creates that kind of next level decision tree where we can then test the next element. And then from the creative side of things, if the creative works, the video works, we duplicate it again, and now we pick another element to test. Because just because like the video works doesn't mean you have a perfect ad, right? In my view, until the ad is 100% click-through rate, it can be better, right? So it can always be better. We're never going to get there. And so then we'll test thumbnails. right? Which I think is a very under-tested part of creative is the initial thumbnail. That's a great way to kind of combine your top images and supercharge your videos, is to make those top images your thumbnails for your top videos. Then we'll test copy. Then we'll test headlines. And so every time we're beating kind of the baseline, we're able to duplicate it and test the next element. And then usually for testing 5-6 things, we're going to find one thing that beats kind of beats that initial control of the test. And so again, I know it's hard to like visualize some of this stuff, so I apologize. I'm more than happy to answer questions. But
there's
like
a couple questions here.
Yeah. And that approach, iterative testing, combined with our ability to segment the individual variables in data studios and understand what's working and why it's working, has been huge in our ability to consistently find winning stuff and scale and not get crushed by audience fatigue.
Super high level. Hey Max, is this system totally set up and designed by you, or could I actually hire someone who would know how to set this up and be granular like this in my ad account?
You could definitely, anybody I think has a decent understanding of data studios would be able to do this, especially if they just like to watch this video. Really, it's just a matter of setting up the naming conventions correctly and then deciding what software you want to use to move it into data studios or Google Sheets. So
yeah, maybe War Room could convince you to walk through how you do it in funnel.io, which I think what you said you were using.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to walk it through in either,
because it looks really interesting. It looks awesome. And then the last question, I mean, it looks obviously like really wonderful data. And then I look at it and I'm like, I don't know how to do that. So I get you do the naming convention, you pipe the data in, you look at it, but I think some folks would like a even more detailed setup video. Last question here is really cool stuff. And thank you. A bunch of people are really happy. What is your average testing time frame per element, like rotating through them or picking the winners?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've gone.
And then lastly, just so I don't have to ask it again, do you have any Facebook ad agencies you recommend?
Yeah, it's a great question. So for time periods of testing, I've done a complete 180 on what I used to say. So I'm sure you can find old videos of me totally contradicting myself right now, where I used to be a fan of like letting things run for a long period of time and giving it a lot of data. But the more I've done this and the more we've spent, like when things work, they work, right? Our most profitable ads work out of the gate. Like it's very rare that we'll find something that kind of sucks for 2 days and just all of a sudden becomes a winning piece of creative. So we're very, very restrictive on our daily stop loss rules, which is a whole nother topic. We basically will spend 1x our target CPA during the day. And if we don't get a sale, we pause that ad. And we restart things every night at midnight with automation rules. But we give things basically 1x target CPA to trigger a sale. And if they don't, we pause them. And then we have rules throughout the day. And then the other, on the back side of it, non-daily rules for ads, 2 to 3 days. And usually it's going to be maybe 5 to 6x our target CPA. We'll let something spend. And if it's over our break-even CPA, we kill it permanently. If it's under it, we let it keep running. But yeah, we've definitely gone a lot more aggressive in our cutoffs there, because we're just constantly testing new stuff and throwing things at the wall. In terms of an agency, it's a good question. It depends. There are so many variables. It depends on what your budgets are. It depends on, are you looking for like a big full service? Are you looking for a kind of boutique shop? If you want to connect with me, after this, I'm more than happy, like learn more about what you're looking for. How would people connect
with you? If they wanted to, would they ping you in the group or would they email you or?
Yeah, my email's a total disaster. I just gave up on email months ago. Too behind. I just don't see emails anymore. So Messenger, like Facebook, would probably be the one way to make sure I see something. So if you want to I'll drop my Facebook link and you can shoot me a message.
Cool.
On Facebook.
Yeah, he's Maxwell Finn on Facebook. You should friend him and get him to help you. Maxwell.
I think it's actually
Finn.
Maxwell T. Finn. Sorry.
Oh, dang. Maxwell. Is that a Thomas or a Taylor?
Thompson. Yeah, I was late. I guess I was late to my own name on Facebook. I don't know how that happened. Or I chose to do it. I just dropped it in the chat.
Maxwell Finn, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, man. That was great.